Hi everybody, this is Dr. Joe Borio, this week's Health Kick. We've been off the last couple of weeks. Certainly I want to apologize to you guys about that. We had some holidays and I was doing a lot of traveling on the road. I was in Seattle, Washington speaking. I was down in South Carolina speaking at the Sherman College Chiropractic, so it was such an honor. So really enjoyed myself, but it's great to be back with you guys, talk about some health topics and how to make your body healthier. So one of the things I want to talk about today is hypertension. What is hypertension? That is your blood pressure being higher than it's supposed to be. A couple of things about that. One, to be defined or diagnosed officially as hypertension, blood pressure has to be taken in your right arm. It has to be taken in a seated position. It has to be identified 3 specific separate times, and you have to be at least 30 minutes at rest before the blood pressure is taken. That doesn't mean laying down and sleeping, but that means you're not doing any activity. You're not walking hurriedly into a store, a drugstore to check it, or hurriedly into the doctor's office, if you will, to get a check. So again, it's got to be checked 3 times. It's got to be dominant arm, and it's got to be 30 minutes of rest before you do it. A couple other things on blood pressure. There's a lot of different mechanics to check blood pressure, devices to check it. So you can use a finger, you can use the wrist, you can use the SFIG, you can use the automatics. There's always a little error no matter what you use. So the point is you want to make the error as consistent as possible. So even though it's off, you want to make sure you use the same finger, the same arm. You want to make sure you're in the same position, same chair, resting at least about a minimum of 30 minutes before you check your blood pressure if you're doing it at home. And that way you'll get a really accurate reading. For those people that are real nervous about it, certainly write down specifically the numbers that you're getting on a regular basis. That'll certainly help you out a lot, so you can keep track of it, keep it consistent. So you're taking it about 7 o'clock every night, same time, and after, watching a certain show or whatever. And you don't necessarily need to check it every day anyways, but 3-4 times a week, if you're somebody that's concerned about it, at least, or you're making some changes, daily activity health, and it's a concern for you, and you want to monitor it, I think it's a great way to go. All right, so that all being said, that's all good stuff. Let's talk about what is hypertension. Hypertension is your blood pressure increasing. There's 2 numbers. There's a systolic and a diastolic. So blah, blah, blah. Bottom line, you got a high number and a low number. So what happens is right when your heart compresses, boom, it squeezes. It squeezes really fast. That's your systolic number. That's the output of the pressure squirting through the arteries, if you will. Now, right before your heart beats again, the moment before it beats again, that's your diastolic, and you hear a little sound when you listen to it, and that's what those things are testing for, those devices are testing for. Those are actually the valves, the pulmonary valve, mitral valve, and so forth. That's the sound of them clamping. So the diastolic tends to give you a more true reading of the integrity of your circulatory system, meaning right before the heart beats, again, it gives you a nice reading of the passive flow of your blood as it goes through the arteries. So I think that's a really a nice reading for you to monitor. So hypertension, the number that's more of a concern I must share with you is that lower number. The higher number, if you read a lot of the older literature, it's 100 plus your age. So if you're 70 years old, the argument is, hey, having a systolic pressure of 170 all the time is very high, and it's not good for the arteries, and it can cause damage. I definitely agree with that, but at the same time, what happens is your arteries get harder as we age. Your joints get stiffer, your body gets tighter, it gets stiffer. So what happens is your heart beats. When you're younger, the arterial walls are more flexible, so when the heart beats, they stretch a little bit, and it absorbs that extra pressure, keeps your pressure down a little bit. As you age, the arteries get harder, so what happens is it beats, it doesn't give, the arteries don't give, it tends to raise your systolic. And that happens throughout the whole body, not just at what they call the aortic notch or right at the aorta. It happens throughout the whole circulatory system. So kind of give you an idea of what's happening there and what those numbers mean, and hopefully it gives you a better understanding of it. Now, blood pressure rises for a very intelligent reason. What I mean by that is almost all cases, if you're somebody that's outside those parameters, you're not an elderly person, and let's say you're in those early ranges of age and your blood pressure starts to increase, why is it doing that? I can almost guarantee a couple of things are happening. One, you're either overweight, 2, you're not being very active, or 3, you're putting food in your body that is toxic to your body, causing your blood pressure to rise. You got to understand your body is extremely intelligent. It's always doing something to adapt. It's always trying to do the right thing. All the time, always. That's called innate intelligence. Your body's intelligent, it's innately intelligent, it's always trying to help you out. So if your pressure rises, your body's saying, your brain and your nervous system are saying, hey, you know what? This person's gaining weight, I gotta raise my pressure to pump the blood through a bigger body, a bigger mass. And I need to raise the pressure to push it through that extra fat and that extra tissue. That's why. That's number 1. 2, I'm not very active. I'm not doing anything. So you're same idea. Your body's got to raise the pressure in order to push it through. So you see people that are less active or overweight, often there are both things going on, that person tends to have higher blood pressure. Certain foods rise it. Industrialized salt, not sea salt. Unrefined sea salt is extremely healthy for you. It's yellow, it's darker in color, it's got a lot of really good minerals. That'll actually, believe it or not, it'll actually lower your blood pressure. But industrialized salt, salt that's refined, either milled from the ground or even from the sea salt that's refined, it's really white and clean and pure. It's been removed. All of the minerals have been removed. It's not really that healthy for you. So as a result, that too can raise your blood pressure. A loss of drinking a lot of water. If you're dehydrated, that can raise your blood pressure. If your glucose, your sugar level is either too high or low, we talked about that. Look up our other videos on diabetes. That can cause your blood pressure to fluctuate. Certainly high blood pressure can be associated with diabetes. So certainly something to look at as well. How do we rectify it? How is blood pressure regulated? Well, blood pressure is regulated primarily by the nervous system. Your nervous system, your brain and spinal cord, send messages to the body telling it what to do. One of the organs it talks to is your kidney. Your kidney releases angiotensin 1 and 2, which are proteins that regulate blood pressure. So when the blood pressure is high, typically your medical doctor will take your blood pressure. Hey, your blood pressure is high. I'm going to give you a angiotensin reuptake inhibitor. It's a drug that prevents angiotensin to be taken up, so it increases the amount of angiotensin, which in turn lowers the blood pressure. It affects the kidney. They're very damaging to the body. By lowering the blood pressure, why is your pressure high? Well, it's trying to bring nutrients and oxygen to the body. When you lower the pressure, you get less nutrients and oxygen in the body. So what are you going to get? More arthritis, more aches and pains, more muscle pains, more joint pain. So the Chinese used to tell us that circulatory problems lead to musculoskeletal problems. So they're definitely closely associated. So how do you address those things? Well, by taking those drugs, 1 or 2, usually what will happen, you'll take 1 drug, your body will adapt, and then the doctor gives you 2, and then they say, well, we got to get rid of the extra fluid, so now we're going to give you a diuretic, so now you're peeing all the time. Then you got to take a potassium pill because you're losing potassium. You got to take electrolytes because you're losing electrolytes. There's nothing good about taking blood pressure medication. Now, short term, I will agree, short term, there might be a need for using blood pressure medication under short term. But long term, it is not the way to do it. Long term blood pressure medication is not the answer. The answer is what? Well, if I'm not moving a lot, I definitely want to increase my mobility. So I have some people that say, well, that's really difficult for me because I'm overweight or I have a lot of disability or other problems. So you got to decide what are the best actions that you can tolerate. Riding a bike, recumbent or standing up, doing a treadmill, doing an elliptical rider, just going for a walk every day can certainly benefit with your blood pressure. Number 2, the food you're putting in your body. If you're putting refined salt in your body, if you are eating a lot of processed white flour, white sugar, processed foods that have shelf life, foods that are not living, non-living foods, those will raise your blood pressure. Our stress level will raise our blood pressure. The part of the nervous system that increases its activity raises your blood pressure. So it causes an increase in angiotensin along with your adrenals, adrenaline, norepinephrine, different chemicals released by the adrenal glands. That raises your blood pressure. So, handling stress, moderating stress, meditating every day, doing yoga, doing exercise, doing some visualization, handling stress by being more organized, taking some active steps in your day-to-day rituals in order to lower the stress response, not change. You can't change the outside world, you can change how your body responds to it. So by making some efforts to change that will certainly improve that as well. Other aspects, nutritional supplements. Magnesium is probably your best. So magnesium is found in fennel seeds. It also helps the gastrointestinal system. We talked about that in the IBS video. So fennel seeds are really good. They're high in magnesium. They're released when you chew, going to the gut. A magnesium supplement, magnesium oxalate, usually comes in a form. There's a product called Relax or Calm, C-A-L-M. Those powder mixtures lower blood pressure. You can't take too much because they can lead to diarrhea. So you got to make sure you're taking a small amount. You can take a vitamin, if you will, supplement, multi-mineral. That'll do it. Last and final, me being the chiropractor, in the 2009 Journal of Human Hypertension, they took several subjects and they adjusted them. The upper cervical, right here, there's been a lot of press about it, but this upper cervical area here controls the nervous system so much so that by adjusting it, it calms the body down. So it helps greatly with stress, helps greatly by lowering the blood pressure. So by that upper cervical adjustment, it immediately lowers the pressure, therefore it gets the person in a really good state. It's as effective as 2 blood pressure medications without any side effect. So certainly one of the things we do in our office is we ought to check people's blood pressure, and then we regulate that or check that as they're under care. We find that almost everybody, their blood pressure drops. It's phenomenal, and the beauty of that is by lowering the blood pressure, less drugs, we know the body's working better, we know the stress response is better, and the body's a lot healthier. So what do we need to do? We need to manage ourselves by getting off processed foods. We need to make sure we're well hydrated. We need to make sure we're on a multi-mineral, multivitamin. We need to manage that stress response of the body. We got to make sure that another great reason that you and everyone in your family should be on a regular chiropractic care. Hopefully I've helped you out with understanding what hypertension is and some different ways to handle it, different ways to combat it. This has been Dr. Joe Borio. Remember, guys, you got to eat well, you got to exercise, all goes into blood pressure, right? You got to think positive thoughts, handle stress. You got to make sure what? You're getting a proper night's sleep. And you want to make sure you and your mother and your father and your grandfather and your uncle and all your co-workers and everybody are getting good chiropractic care to make sure the messages from your brain can go down to your body, tell your body what to do, and the body can communicate back up to the brain and tell it what to do. I'll tell you, it gives you a better quality short-term in your life, and it certainly gives you a much better quality long-term in your life. Guys, take great care of yourself. Enjoy time with your family and loved ones. Look forward to talking to you next week.